these moments where, we happen to be recording this conversation, but what's great is that we're also here encouraging each other in the journey. And that's a beautiful thing. So anyone that's listening, find your people, right?
You're listening to the Connected Parenting Minute with Will and CarrieAnn Standfest. This podcast is a conversation about parenting, using connection first, trauma-informed principles. Because when you lead with connection, everyone feels seen, which is the foundation to a more peaceful home. This podcast reminds you that you don't have to be a perfect parent, but we can all get a little better, one connected parenting minute at a time.
Hello, and welcome back to the Connected Parenting Minute podcast. We are so grateful that you've taken a few minutes out of your day to join us. My name is Will Standfest, and with me is the lovely CarrieAnn Standfest.
Hey, everybody.
As promised, we have an interview podcast this week. CarrieAnn, do you want to tell us a little bit more about our interview guest?
For sure. We recently got the chance to speak at the Replanted Conference. Will and I did a conversation about teenagers.
Yeah, we did a teenagers workshop together.
And then you got a chance to speak to dads, just about a lot of different things that dads face in the area of parenting. But we got to do an amazing interview with
Meredith Schumann
from the James Trail. We talked a lot about community and why parents need to intentionally seek that out.
We're here at the Replanted Conference, and we are here with Meredith Schumann from James Trail, and we thought we'd have a conversation here today. Meredith, how are you doing today?
So good. Hi, guys. Thank you for having me.
We are blessed to have you on here. It's been great. We've gotten to know Meredith over the past year or so through various conferences, CAFO and Replanted, and a few other places like that. Meredith is co-founder or founder, I should say.
Oh, I don't know. Founder, but that sounds a little presumptuous. So yeah.
No, own it.
Meredith is the founder of James Trail, which is a fantastic organization. And Meredith, before I completely botch your intro, why don't you tell the people a little bit about James Trail?
So James Trail is about James and the book of James written by the brother of Jesus, who's also named James.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically from that book, we have some verses in there that talk about caring for people in need. So that's one part of our name, is coming alongside people in need. And the second part of our name is, and I am one. I am someone in need.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
The second part of our name is trail. And so the way we say it is, I'm on the trail. I see you on the trail. Let's walk the trail together. In no way do I have this figured out. Our hope is to bring trauma-informed content and support and community alongside families, organizations, businesses, hospitals, schools, so that we can understand mental health issues, we can understand trauma, how it impacts us, and come alongside each other in really productive and impactful ways.
That's beautiful. I really like just coming alongside other people. Being at this conference this weekend is, with, several hundred foster and adoptive families here. And let me tell you, the stories you hear and the testimonies that people give on stage like that, it's like, oh, I feel that. Like,
right.
I know what that person's been experienced and what it's been through. And it's really healing, and it's really powerful to feel like you're not the only one, to not feel alone.
Well, and I love that, that image of being on the trail and someone else being there and just walking alongside of them, because, you're stepping out in faith and you're ministering to other families, but you're also in that space, and being able to do that. I think the thing I love about teaching or about sharing some of our story is that it keeps me accountable to keep trying and to keep learning and keep growing, and recognize that there's other people that are along that trail too, and that we can help each other. If it wasn't for people that were willing to step out and speak their heart and speak the things that they've learned along the way, I wouldn't be where I am right now. And so I'm so grateful for those people that are willing to be vulnerable, to be willing to share what their experience has been. And it's encouraged me to be one of those people of saying, hey, I've been here. This is what I've done. Give me other ideas.
Absolutely. I feel like I wake up every morning striving to be more and more of a learner every single day. I love to understand things better and how better to do that than to connect with other people and hear not only practical tools of how we can come alongside each other as parents or as adults, frankly, but also like what resources do you have? Tell me more about your faith journey. Like, how has that impacted you in your life? And we are stronger and we're stronger together. And that is how, things have been set up from the beginning. I'm a person of faith. And so what comes to mind for me is, we were set up in families. We were set up in communities. We were set up to come alongside each other in really simple and easy ways. But today, and where we live is the United States. So in our society, we're so separated, we're so fragmented, and we're going so many different directions. So we have to be intentional. We have to decide, okay, I'm going to sit here and enter in. I'm going to really, intentionally connect with people. And it takes effort, but so worth it.
Oh, absolutely. And I think a lot of us felt that too. I mean, even going back a couple of years to the pandemic and just how instantly we were all just separated.
Absolutely.
And just how much people just started trying to figure out how do I reach out? How do I connect? How do I figure this out? I mean, it's why Zoom exploded. It's why all these other online ways to connect and meet with people exploded, is because people all of a sudden being ripped out of their communities felt this gaping hole. They knew that they needed to connect with others and to feel seen and to get through this together.
Absolutely. I think that's really valuable to understand. I think we've always needed that community. I think we were designed for community, to have other people to walk alongside of us. And it wasn't, I think, until the pandemic that we started to actually realize that when it was taken away. It's interesting because we talked earlier in our workshop about teens in particular, and how, the stereotype exists that teens are just always so involved in their phones. Like that's all they want. But really the positive shift on that is looking and seeing that our teens are looking for connection. They're looking for ways to feel validated. I mean, really, they're looking for dopamine because that's an important part of their development and, where they're at in that stage of life. But they really are seeking connection, and they were made for that, and as our kids get older and as we, start going, okay, they're more independent, they can do more things alone, we forget that they still need that connection.
So true. And what you guys are so great about is that sort of connection that you create with your audience, not only through the podcast, but through your social media platforms, is by saying, hey, this is what we're dealing with today. Number one, welcome in. And also, these are some things we're trying, thanks for stepping in. Put your comments in, like it's a way in today's society to form some of that community. And so I love the ways that you guys approach that.
Thank you. There's an element there that just welcoming people in and saying, hey, yeah, we're dealing with this aspect of this teen or this aspect of this kid, because, unless if you're willing to be vulnerable and share that, nobody else realizes you're going through it. And it's so easy to believe that we're alone.
And that everyone else has got it together.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Because the thing I've always heard is on social media, it's most people's highlight reel. Right.
Right.
And we don't compare our highlight reel to their highlight reel. We compare to when we're having a bad day and everything's falling apart at home to the highlight reel we see on social media. And we're just like, wow,
super. Yeah.
I don't have anything together. These people got it all figured out.
Exactly.
So coming back to James Trail and the work you guys do, kind of walking along the trail, I really appreciate that. And I really love the importance of community. Where does your heart start with that? Kind of where did that come from in your story, and how does that tie in?
So we have 5 kids. I'm married 31 years, awesome husband. We have 5 kids, and 4 of them are adopted, 1 domestic adoption, and then 3 girls came from Colombia in international adoption 17 years ago this month. And, as we entered in, we knew there would be challenges because especially for those who are adopted, especially our girls having been adopted a little older, we knew there were going to be challenges, but I had no idea the challenges that I was going to face in the middle of all of that. And yet, as we have moved forward through the years, there have been some really, really awesome highs, really victorious, redemptive highs. And we have had some really low, really dark seasons as well. And so somewhere along the way, I just kept saying, like, where are the resources? for families like ours, where are the places where people can go and feel seen and known and heard, and to not only gain the understanding of trauma and mental health issues and how it impacts us, but also that formation of community. And what does that need to look like? And so really that's some of the start of James Trail, is just wanting to provide a resource that we were not seeing out there. And we enter into both faith spaces and secular spaces, and just really try to not only encourage, the raw understanding of trauma-informed content, but also how do we need to come alongside each other in community and understanding those pieces of content.
We've had such a great fall, traveling and speaking at conferences. We're excited to announce our first conference of 2025. Join us at the RE Conference in Kansas City, February 21st through 22nd, again in 2025. Join us for real encouragement for foster and adoptive parents. Registration can be found at realencouragement.org. That's realencouragement.org. And if you're interested in having us speak at your event, contact us at info@connectedparentingminute.com. We'd be happy to work with you.
And now back to the show. Yeah. And that's really huge, because I think that's one of the things that when we were kind of early on in our journey into foster care and adoption, is it was very easy to fall into this thing of none of these people get it.
Right.
And to a degree, they don't, but that doesn't mean they don't care. And that doesn't mean that you can't find people that are willing to step in with, but it's very isolating, especially, I mean, we had the double whammy of our kiddos moved in a week before the pandemic started. And so it was isolated from our regular community and feeling like experiencing this whole other world of parenting that we hadn't experienced before. But it was super impactful anytime that we were able to talk and connect with people that really, really got it.
Yeah.
And you feel seen in a different way, in a very healing kind of way on it.
Absolutely. Because, many of us have sat through workshops and intellectually learned how trauma impacts the brain and what that means for our amygdala and our pathways and, the tools of connect before you correct and all those like good things. But if it's learned and seen and understood in isolation, it doesn't really have that opportunity for application.
Yeah.
We don't walk away with like a tool belt or a tool for our belt and saying, okay, now I feel like I can walk in this. But if we have that sort of content in a context where we can communicate with each other, we can have table discussions, we can have follow-up care, which we're really passionate about. Then we can start to say, oh, okay, now I'm starting to get it. Maybe I can do this one more day. Maybe I can do this another week,
Right.
It gives us courage to step forward in it and to keep showing up and keep doing the thing.
Well, I think there's an element to that too. If you can know the thing, in your brain, but the actual application is really tough, especially in the moment, especially if you weren't raised that way. That was not your normal experience. So there's the element that in community, sometimes you can get to experience that firsthand. Oh, wow. I just noticed that mom interacted with her kid in a way that I want to, but I saw it in action. And then, when you keep talking about it, when you keep bringing it up, most of the time we know the things, we just need to be reminded of them.
Absolutely. Gently and lovingly reminded.
Right? The aggressive, I know you're supposed to do that is not normally helpful. But,
right.
It's like when you're walking that path and somebody else gets it and they're, trying to do the same things and they're messing up the same exact ways. And, you have that camaraderie there that is so valuable. I know that when, like Will said, we, our kids came to our home a week before the pandemic hit. And, so we lost our normal community that was supposed to be our support system. But then all of a sudden we started, I was shocked at how differently I felt than I thought I would. I was like, oh, I got this kid thing under control. We have a couple of kids.
Right.
I know how to parent, all these things. But then actually experiencing going, wow, I did not expect to feel this way. That was a kind of one of the bigger shockers in my life is I was surprised at at my own heart and I was like, oh my gosh, is this normal? Like, I don't know what to do with this. But we slowly found more and more people that we can invest in and, who've walked similar paths and they've come and gone in our lives and stuff. But I wish I would have known how important that intentionality was when we first started.
Well, and just by you stating it here, you're helping people to see that in whatever stage of parenting that they're facing.
Mm-hmm.
Because, even as you are facing some of those challenges, we're so focused on our kids all the time that we miss that, like, if I can understand the responses that I'm having in my body right now, in my heart right now, then not only can I better parent and enter into their space, but I can be a healthier individual, which helps the entire family system and helps me. So it's like not
Exactly.
just about the kids,
Mhm.
we have to understand what's going on with us so that we can not only be okay for our own selves, but also be able to enter in.
Right. I think so many times, like you said, we're focused on the kids' behavior and stuff. And, we slowly start to talk about that of like, well, really the only person you can change is the person looking back at you in the mirror in the morning.
Right.
And that's hard. That's a hard place to get to. Like we're really understanding that and truly believing that and going, okay, I can do all the right things, but my kid may not change their behavior. And I'm the only one who can do that. But
That's
it's so tough.
It is. It is. But it's like these moments where, we happen to be recording this conversation. But what's great is that we're also here encouraging each other
Yeah.
in the journey. And that's a beautiful thing. So anyone that's listening, find your people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes. So having experience working with James Trail and stuff like that, what tips do you have? Like what encouragements or practical things can you encourage people? Like there's somebody out there listening right now who's like, this all sounds great. And I'm glad you three have figured it out. But I don't know what to do.
Yeah. No, great question. A couple of things are coming to mind. One is we at James Trail, we create online content that's free, from podcast to blogs to newsletters and social media content. And we put all that out there, not, just because that's what you do. We do that. And I know you guys are the same in order to create conversation. We hope, I know that these amazing people want for their audience to hear this conversation and get some coffee with a friend and say, okay, do you agree with this? What do you think about this? How does this hit you? And so the magic is not happening just here. The magic is happening over coffee with people that we've never met.
Yeah, absolutely.
That Will and CarrieAnn and Meredith have never met.
Yep.
And it's those kinds of conversations that create community. And we're just giving you things to think about and talk about. So that's one way, is through online content, both in this wonderful space and for us also with James Trail. The other is, I think sometimes we can be so burdened with parenting, some really challenging subjects, that we just put our priority for community just so low that it never happens. Because it takes work, especially today in the United States where we live.
Yeah.
It takes work. And raise your hand if you feel like you're the one that always reaches out. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
yep.
We all raised our hand.
We all face that. But the question is, if not, how is not reaching out? How's that working for you? I mean, I'm looking in the mirror, literally.
Mm-hmm.
How's that working for you, Meredith? And so one of the ways that I have to face the day is like, I have to find my people. Who are my people? And so one of the questions that we were actually talking about in a workshop today is, who in the last 6 months that when you shared your story of parenting with them, you walked away from that conversation and you did not feel judged. You felt seen. Who is that person?
That's good. I like that.
And then has it been 6 months since you've seen them? Like what's the next step with that person?
Mm-hmm.
Is it a coffee? Is it a FaceTime or Zoom or whatever? And the fact that you maybe never even thought about that person as being someone to connect with, but like if you walked away not feeling judged, that's powerful.
Oh yeah. It jumps to mind too. Just asking ourselves the question of, do we feel like we're always reaching out? Inherent behind that is we would like others to reach out to us.
Totally.
Right? And so if you're out there being like, man, I really wish a friend would call me, you're not bothering the other person by calling them. They're sitting at home thinking the same thing.
Probably so. Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
I mean, it's some community is an innate desire. It's something that's built into who we are as people to be a part of a community. And I think we all feel that, but yet we all believe that nobody else feels that.
Right.
Such a lie, but we believe it. I mean, hands down, there's so many times where I'm like, well, that person never thinks of me. But how often does someone come to mind and I don't actually do anything about it?
Right.
You know, I'm like, oh, I wonder how that other person's doing. And then someone like breaks an egg in the kitchen and I'm like rushing off to that. And then,
Salmonella. Yeah.
Right, exactly. You just get distracted and whatever. So, there's points where I've stooped to the fact that I have to set a reminder to call someone. I mean, there's sometimes where I will write down names of my friends because I'm like, I forget they exist because, you just don't come in normal contact with them. But I love that idea of like, notice those people who you walk away and you're like, oh man, I felt seen, or I felt like there was a connection there, because more than likely that person maybe felt the same way. But if not, that's okay. You can have friends and, there's different seasons for different people, but you have to keep that at the forefront of your mind of just going, you know what, I need people, and being okay with that. I mean, like, you can be a little needy too sometimes, especially when you're parenting and you're doing these things, taking care of others on a consistent basis.
Absolutely.
Other thing that brings to mind is, as you were talking, is that we're going, well, that's me being so selfish or something, because you're like, it's about the kids, right? But if you really want to break it down, when you are making the effort to invest in other people, your kids are going to see that. If they go, oh, wow, my mom and dad made an effort to have friends and invest in them. Even when everything was going on, you set the tone for your kids as they grow up. Because I'm like, man, did my parents have any friends? I mean,
Right.
but they got all encompassed in taking care of us, and family's important. But there's also the aspect of setting like an understanding that community is important too.
That is so, so true because, we are so focused on the kids, but there are aspects of how we take care of ourselves that does inspire or challenge or bring to mind things for our kids.
Mm-hmm.
But that's if we're just going to keep focusing on the kids. Like I would say to every person in your audience, you are worthy of this work. You are worthy of this community. You are worthy of the effort that it takes on your part, on their part, to step in with people all by yourself without, however it's going to impact the kids,
Right. It's true. It's just, trying to shift and be like, okay, well, I think sometimes I really struggle with, well, am I worth it? So hearing you say that, I'm like, okay. But, it's, if you need an additional reason, that can also be,
absolutely
one.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, that's really good. Thank you for those tips and those thoughts. I think it's a really good conversation. That's really helpful to our listeners, and it's been encouragement even to us here. I appreciate you. Thank you for taking a few minutes to join us.
You guys. You guys do just great content, great work, and it's just such a fun blessing to get to run into you in these spaces. And man, I am just super thankful to be, walking the trail, as we say, shoulder to shoulder with you guys, and entering into the space that can be pretty tough. But man, you can see how you are there for people and your heart is in such the right place. So Thank you so much.
I appreciate that. I was just going to ask Meredith to share with people where they can find her content and where they can follow you on socials and be inspired by you as well.
Oh man, that's fun. So our website is jamestrail.org. If you're a part of Replanted, we have a special landing page where we're offering some, individual time to talk about how James Trail can serve them. And that's jamestrail.org/replanted. Our social media is on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn, and it's at James Trail Global. And we are, we have a podcast as well, every platform where podcasts are published. So Spotify, Apple, all the places. And that is called James Trail from Functional to Flourishing.
I love it.
Functional to Flourishing. I love that. All right. Well, thank you for your time today, Meredith. And we will see you again soon.
Thanks so much, guys.
Well, that was a good conversation with Meredith.
I love talking with her. It was so fun because we've seen her at different conferences on and off, and we keep passing, crossing paths. And it was really fun to get a chance to actually sit down and have a conversation and get to record that. But, we got to sit in on a workshop she did with her son talking about relationships with teens. And it was really fascinating.
I love the title of it. It was talked about conversations and duct tape. And she's like, the duct tape is for me, the parent.
Right? It's so reassuring to hear other people going through difficult things and recognizing that we're not alone, hence the need for community. So we really want to encourage our listeners that, especially if you're parenting maybe a neurotypical kid or neurodiverse kid, neurotypical kids also need parental support. But it's so reassuring to hear that other people are going through maybe challenging times with parenting. We often forget that. It's so easy to feel like you're in it alone. And especially in the case where you might be parenting neurodivergent children or children that are fostered or that you've adopted or things that you may not have experienced, just to hear other people's stories and be able to say, oh, I see myself in that and they did this. Maybe I can try that too. And so it's a very good way to be seen and recognize that you're not alone.
And we're speaking to ourselves here too. There's been different phases and times in our lives where we've had really close relationships or we've kind of drifted a little bit. And it's really important. Like we've noticed it when it's been lacking in our life, and it makes it really hard because I honestly think it's a lie that we start believing this idea that nobody else understands, right? It's a common soundtrack. It's a common thing that we end up believing that, well, no one else quite gets how hard it is with my kid or with how many kids I have or with my kids' struggles at school or struggles outside of work or whatever the thing is. Like all of our kids have things that we're going through, and there may not be somebody who has the exact same situation that you do, but there are people that understand. And there are people that care is probably the big one, right? There are people around you that genuinely care and would want to understand it as best they can to be a part of your life and lean in and encourage you.
For sure. We're so glad that you tuned in to listen to our interview. And as always, we want to remind you
that you don't have to be a perfect parent,
but we can all get a little better, one connected parenting minute at a time.
Thank you so much for listening to my mom and dad's podcast. It means a lot to me. Make sure to like and subscribe on the way out.
For more parenting tips or to connect with us, check out the Connected Parenting Minute on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Or you can send us an email using connectedparentingminute@gmail.com.